Hello everybody, this is Ryan over at High Carb Regenerator. Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to make a video about the journey that I have been on as far as the food goes. Somebody asked me, they said they're following the same tracks as me and they wanted to know what to learn. I feel like that's what my whole channel has been about. So I guess I'll try to summarize it, but I mean, you really could just watch my channel. I think of all the things that I've learned is you got to be consistent. Like consistency is key. You can't just do high carb, low fat for like a month and expect like the miraculous results. Now, some people will get that. If you did not come from a starvation nation type background, and maybe a couple other backgrounds, you might not go through that. Or if you have a really good thyroid still, if your hormones are still in really good condition and you don't have to do any work there, you might lose weight really quick. That's not been my experience from what I see in the comments. A lot of people don't go through that, but I'm sure there are people who are going to go through that. Like, you always just kind of ate a lot of food, but it was just a terrible food. Like you ate a lot of like McDonald's or Wendy's or whatever it was. You really weren't shying away from eating a lot. You just were eating the wrong things. And you might have a normal hormone set, when you get to it. So you might be fine. But most of us kind of yo-yoed. We went all over the place. We starved. We ate too much. We starved. We binged. We starved. We binged. And that's I think a lot of people come from that background. That is the background that's going to take the longest to heal from. Because when you starve yourself, like even if you're on the keto diet or the carnivore diet or whatever it is, if you starve yourself, at some point, your thyroid is going to start matching that, and your TSH is going to go up, and your T4 is going to go down, and you're no longer really going to be able to have a good metabolism. And if you don't have that, and then your whatever, if you're male, testosterone is going to tank. If you're female, your estrogen is going to, be off. And once those are off, you can't lose weight. You can't lose weight. You got to starve yourself even more and more. This is where you see the water fasters of the world or the juice fasters of the world. It's an eating disorder in my mind. I don't care what anybody else says. I've been doing juicing in the morning. I'm actually going to make a video about that, but it's been kind of a rough week. And I liked it, but I couldn't do it all day. Like it was fine, it's kind of a good way to start off the morning. But I tell you what, mobility has been way better for my digestion than any diet that I've ever been on. And I got to figure out how to get that into a video format, especially when it's just me filming. But mobility lately, I mean, I got stuff coming out of me that smells like McDonald's from back in the day. I'm like, man, I cannot believe this is still in there. So there's that aspect. If your spine, if you're under carb light, if they're not in alignment, if they're not where they're supposed to be, if your spine's not moving, if your intestines aren't being, jostled around like they're supposed to be when you walk, you're going to have a hard time no matter what you're doing. So that's going to also be something that hinges you too. So there's many aspects of this, and I'm making this channel about that, and I'm going to make the Patreon about that. Like I said, this week has been the worst week of my life, like hands down. So it has put me a little bit behind where I wanted to be, but it just is what it is. So I'm going to be making more videos about mobility because I actually think that's more important than even I realized when I've been going through this. And it's kind of almost thankful that I went through the surgery that I did. But that video, this isn't about that in the video. But I do say that mobility is a huge part of this. But what I have learned is consistency, like I said in the beginning of the video, is the key. But if you're consistent doing the wrong thing, it's not going to work either. If you're consistently eating Doritos or I don't know if Twinkies still exist, but whatever, if that's your diet, like I mentioned DoorDash in every video, I mean, you should see some of the shopping lists for these people. I'll go get 50 pounds of sausage for them, and I hate even touching this stuff. I'm like grabbing it with like, plastic bag, and I'm like smells and everything. And then they'll get Diet Coke. I'm like, what in the hell is wrong with you? Like, I don't understand, but this is, the message that's out there right now. And people are just, they zone in on on the message and gotta, zone in. They can't see anything outside of what they're being told. And so this is what they get. The result is what the message wants you to get, and they're getting it. But if you're eating the right thing, high carb, low fat, I don't know that you got to go to 10 grams of fat. I usually do. I'm usually somewhere around there. I would say 80-10-10 is a good thing too. 10% of your, I would think, from what I've learned actually on my journey, protein is significantly more dangerous than fat. But I'm not saying to go eat high fat either, because if your fat is high, you're really going to have a hard time losing weight. So I wouldn't have high either one, protein or fat. Now, if you eat like potatoes, or if you eat rice, or if you eat some other kind of starches, your protein's going to be a little higher than maybe it should be, but that's just the nature of the beast, especially with potatoes. I'm shocked, but I don't know if Chronometer is right. I had 4 pounds of potatoes the other day, and it said I had 100 grams of protein, and I'm like, I don't know if that's right. It doesn't sound right. So I don't know if it calculates correctly or not. And, you don't actually know what's in these potatoes or whatever you're eating. You don't actually know. You would literally have to have every single morsel of food that you eat tested before you eat it. And it's burnt to a crisp in the testing process, so you couldn't eat it anyway. So high fat, low carb is like a really popular thing right now, but it's just completely destroying people. It's just completely destroying people. So high carb, low fat is the way you've got to go 100%. Whenever I've come off of it is when I've gained weight. That's why I started this channel, because I came off of it because I was miserable. My foot was killing me. Everything was just kind of going down the drain, and I started eating hummus and muffins again from Whole Foods, and it happened slow, right? So you're not going to realize it at first, and then you're like, oh shit. You look in the mirror one day, and you're like, oh, well, we got to start over again. And it's just, and I was eating the chips from Trader Joe's, and I haven't seen it in a while. I don't know if they stopped making them. I actually wanted to bring them over to my parents' house so they could try them. I wasn't going to eat any, but they don't really care about this whole thing. So I figured might as well give them the best chips on the planet. I know it's bad, but they're both way skinnier than I am. But that's it. Consistency is key. You've got to just stick with it. Now, if you're hungry, you're not eating enough. If you're hungry, you're not eating enough, or you're very, very dehydrated. So if you're not peeing clear, you're dehydrated. If you're hungry after you're peeing clear, you're hungry. So I would always hydrate first. I would always make sure that you're peeing clear. And then that it's actually a hunger signal. A hunger signal kind of hits up here, where the dehydration actually kind of hits down in the stomach, if that does you any good. Everybody's kind of felt like that, like weird bubble almost feeling up here. That means that you're actually hungry. The stomach ping usually means that you're dehydrated. So make sure that you're hydrated first, and then you know that you got to eat. And always have like a liter of water before you eat. Maybe not directly before, maybe like 5 minutes before, so it can get in the stomach. It can reacidify, and then you've actually got a better volume to digest everything that you just eaten. So there's many different things that you can do to make sure that you're getting enough. And then once you are getting enough, that's when the healing can start happening. That's when the thyroid can start actually functioning correctly. That's when the hormones are going to start functioning as they need to. That's when all this stuff is going to start happening. Before that, it may not happen. It may not happen. Especially if your thyroid is messed up, you are not going to lose weight without completely starving yourself. This is where the Seco people come in. They're like, oh, you gotta eat 100 calories a day and run for 25 miles. That's how you do it. That's how you do it. How stupid is this? How stupid is this? Like, what other animal do you see doing this stupidity? None of them. Most of them are the laziest things you've ever seen in your life. If they're not eating, they're laying down. They're not just going for a walk for the hell of it. They're just, unless there's like a threat to their survival, they're moving. you're not really allowed to hunt in this area at all. So if you go to like one of the parks, you'll see the deer just chilling out, laying in the grass, and they're just laying there. They're not out there on a treadmill. They're not out there on a, bouncing on a trampoline or anything, but I do love bouncing on a trampoline. They just live the exact way they're supposed to, and everything comes out correctly. So if you eat high carb, low fat, think about going out in nature, not with a spear, not with a gun, not with an elephant gun or something like that. Think about going out in nature where we're actually supposed to be living. What you're going to find is high carb, low fat. You're not going to find a bunch of lard on a tree somewhere that you're supposed to eat. You're not going to find this kind of stuff. You're only going to find stuff that you're actually supposed to eat, which is high carb, low fat. Yes, there's avocado. Yes, there's nuts. Their season is very short. We have extended it because of money. We have extended these seasons. But in real life, in reality, the season of an avocado especially is excruciatingly short. And they can't even ripen until they fall off the tree. Nuts, very short season. And a lot of nuts, especially cashews, are extremely toxic. They actually the shell actually has to be burned off. So think about, like in India, they don't eat cashews for the most part. They might make cashew milk and stuff like that, but they stay away from that. So it's extremely toxic, the shell that it has around it. Now, I guess the fruit that it's attached to is edible. I don't know. I've never seen it. I don't think. But, keep this stuff in mind. You are not going to find lard or you're not going to find oil on a tree. I know they've been making olive oil for thousands of years in the Middle East, the Mediterranean. I know this. It's extremely expensive. They weren't using it like crazy. I mean, think about when you read about, even in the Bible, that stuff was expensive as hell. I mean, they used to trade with this stuff. It was so expensive. They used to trade with oil. Think about, that is not stuff that you're just going to willy-nilly pour on stuff until you mass produce it like we have these days. And then it's all everywhere. You can buy olive oil for $6.99 for a big glass thing of it. Back in the day, that was trade. That was trade. Salt was trade back in the day. People didn't put salt on everything because it had the nutrients that you needed in the food, so you didn't need to add salt to it. Even ginger. Ginger was actually another form of trade. It was very hard to find. And now we just willy-nilly this kind of stuff. But this stuff was actual trade back in the day because it was so hard to get. So this is not stuff that we would have been eating. They claim this Mediterranean diet and stuff like that. This stuff, even probably 200 years ago, was so expensive a commoner couldn't even afford it. And you're telling me that they're sopping this stuff up on their food. It's not gonna happen. They just marketed this stuff this way. And this is where we end up. And when you follow marketing, and I feel like I am kind of a marketer myself, but when you follow marketing, I don't know where you're going to end up. It might be on the right side. It might not be. I don't know. But when you follow what is intuitive to you, once you start eating this stuff for a while, you really don't even want the other stuff. Like I know I'll probably end up going over my family's for Christmas, or somewhere. And I'm not even drawn to that food anymore. Just not even drawn to that food anymore. It does nothing for me, especially my dad loves to make ham. I hate the smell of that stuff. I've always kind of hated the smell of ham, but now is repulsive to me. So and they get mad at me, but I kind of choke a little bit when he pulls it out of the smoker and brings it in the house. I'm like, ugh. The only savings grace is how much sugar they put on that stuff. So you can kind of smell the sugar. It kind of saves your nose. But this is the lesson that I've learned. Consistency is key. Water is key. Sleep whenever you get it. I was into the going to bed early, and it really irritates the shit out of me now that I think about it, because I was actually missing time that I was spending with my cat, who is now dead. And it sucks to me now because I was just laying in the bed and I couldn't sleep. And I didn't let her up because you never knew where she was going to go number 2. She liked to pop it wherever. And if you ever woken up to a headache from her dropping number 2, you know that you can't let her up there. And so I lost hours with my cat that I would have had if I wasn't following something that just wasn't true to me. I am not a morning person. I don't like the morning. I don't see the point of seeing the sunrise. It does nothing for me. I know that it's there. And if it wasn't, we wouldn't be here anyway. So it wouldn't really matter. So it's not my thing. So now I'm just kind of luckily I got away from that and I got to spend a lot more time with her this last month or so. But I've actually been losing weight. Fine. And I really haven't been exercising, especially this week. I've basically been staring at a wall, wondering what just happened. But what I have learned is that some exercise is beneficial. Don't gotta kill yourself. I mean, when I see these people in the gym, like doing all this kind of stuff, I'm like, where in the hell would you do that in real life? When people walked at a leisure, like a kind of a steady pace, they weren't jumping in the trees doing pull-ups. They weren't like, I mean, watching humans nowadays, it's like watching sheep on feet. It really is. I know that sounds like terrible, but like it really, and it's weird too, because we'll eat the wrong diet and then we'll abuse animals to see what diet we should be eating instead of just experiment on yourself. Just do it yourself. Anyway, hopefully I answered the question. I'll probably have to remake this video at some point in the future when I haven't had the worst week of my life. I don't even know if I'm going to edit this, honestly. It's just like, it's just like daunting to me what has happened this week. But, here's the answer to your question. Consistency, water, sugar, low fat, low protein. Anytime I have strayed from that, I gain weight. I don't know if you've got to be raw vegan. If you were very sick, I would go raw vegan straight up. The only reason for that is because it's very little stress on your digestive system. So your body actually has a lot more energy to digest food or to do whatever it does because it's not digesting food. So when you eat raw food, I mean, it just goes in and out. You'll notice, like if you've been raw for, 3 or 4 days, you'll notice when you eat, you got to be around the toilet because it's going to come out in like 20 to 30 minutes. Where if you eat even cooked like potatoes or something like that, maybe 8 hours or something like that. So, you notice a difference. And so like I said, if you are very ill or something like that, and I'm not a doctor, I'm not, prescribing anything, but if I were very ill, I would go on a raw food diet, whatever variation that I could afford. That's what I would do. But if I was just losing weight, starches are plenty good for that. Plenty good for that. I would start off the day with fruit if you can find it, especially like bananas and dates. I think almost any country can find those. And now we're coming into citrus season, and persimmons are kind of in season, but kind of coming out of season. So seasonal fruit usually is pretty cheap, relatively. And then, maybe the rest of your day is starches, and you'll lose weight. But it might take a while because your hormones might be tanked. You might actually have to add sugar. I had to add a pound of sugar a day to get my thyroid correct again. And I have the blood work. I did the video. I have the blood work. You can see the consistent going up and everything going back to normal. Testosterone going up from adding a pound of sugar a day. I don't do it anymore. I started adding in dates, but I'm out of dates right now. I just ran out today, so I'll probably be adding sugar again tomorrow. But you're really going to have to play with this. You are going to be completely lost. It's like if you were in a jungle and don't have a map, or if you're anywhere and you don't have a map, you don't know how to get out. It's kind of like being on this journey and not having your blood work. It's kind of like running this thing without having a map. You have no idea what's going on. So go get your blood work. Go get your blood. Go to an endocrinologist and have all the hormones tested, and maybe get a blood panel done, and just different. Just have a few things done. Just make sure you have some kind of what's going on with you. Because if you don't, like I said, it's like being somewhere without a map, and you've never been there before, and your phone doesn't work. You don't have a map on your phone, right? Your phone doesn't exist. We don't have cell phones in this scenario. You are out somewhere in the middle of nowhere. You got no map, and that is basically what people do when they don't have blood work, because you have no idea what's going on. You can guess, you can take your temperature, and yes, sure, that might be a little accurate, but it's not going to tell you where the rest of your hormones are. It's only going to tell you where your thyroid's at. So, and you can use your eyes. You can use your eyes. You can use your face. Now, my face, I've got craters under my eye. It's been a week. But in reality, you really just got to go get blood work. Just get it done first. Like, if you're watching this video, you've never done this before, go get your blood work done before you start. Get your materials, get everything ready to get started. But go get it tested, and get your vitamin D tested, and get your vitamin B12 tested. Unless you got to pay for this stuff, I don't know. I know that can get expensive. And if you can't afford it, just get started, and hopefully at some point you can get the stuff tested. But if you have the ability to get this stuff tested, get it tested first. That way, in 6 months, you can get it tested again, or 3 months, or whatever it is, whatever the doctor will allow. Sometimes they're 3 months, sometimes they're 6 months, whatever it is, and go get it tested and make sure that you are going where you need to be. Because if you're not, then carbs are probably just too low. Just too low. And you're going to actually eat more food than you really think. Like last night, I had 5 pounds of potatoes. 5 pounds of potatoes. So, I'm not saying everybody's going to do that, but I am saying that you're going to be eating more than you really think that you should. I know there's some people are going to fight up with me about volume eating and whatever, but yeah, I think that's it. Hopefully this video did you some good. Like I said, this week has been shit. It's terrible. That's it. Anyway, comments, questions down below. I will get to these comments and questions. The last other videos, I can't even look. And like, subscribe, and I'll talk to you next time.